we want to talk to Marcus, who's calling in from Texas. Marcus, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to, I am an agnostic atheist now. And hi, by the way.
Hi. What's
Hello,
up?
Marcus?
It's good to meet you guys. And Jesus Christ, I'm kind of a fan of your channel, but I have to say that I'm not a part of your fan club right now.
That's okay. I forgive you.
Yeah, well, but I will say that my main issue is that since I became an agnostic atheist through a lot of introspection, I was in a fundamentalist church. We were all very close and very much like family, and I still love them and all. And it was very hard for me to even open up about any of this. And I think they're just having a hard time dealing with that. And one of the ladies who was essentially like a mother to me, she sent me this letter and said that I was on her mind a lot, and she was praying for me. And she claims that the Lord told her to pick up one of her old journals. And what she opened up to was, she said she immediately opened up to this passage from 2016, and it was where she wrote down a prayer for me that I would stop overanalyzing everything. And then she wrote down the scripture that, I think it's from Romans 8 about those who have their minds set on the Spirit, are pleasing to God, and those who have their minds set on the flesh. I don't have the letter in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
But she just started using that passage to say that was proof that God is real and answers prayers, and just, she was very nice about it, but just telling me to repent, and that I went after worldly philosophies and stuff, and that's why I became an atheist and so forth. There's a lot more details to it, but yeah. I was just kind of wondering, what do you guys think? Do you think that it's possible that she was actually hearing from and answered a prayer from a divine being? or is it a matter of probability?
We have a policy in heaven, and that is we don't create middlemen. So your mother would never get a revelation on your behalf, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's just your mom being mom. Mom just wants what she thinks is best for you. You made the right decision. I'm actually really proud of you. You may not believe in me, but I believe in you, and I think you did the right thing. So yeah, nobody else is in charge of you or that sort of thing. You're your own person, and you did a good move.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. Oh, go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I'm not even so much sure that it was a move, so much as that I just started deconstructing and listening to a lot of different sides and angles, listening to more than just what was taught in the church and what was declared to be of or not of the Holy Spirit. And I just came to realize that a lot of the reasons that I continued and would ignore a lot of other things is because of fear. I was very afraid. Yeah. And then I find the more I start looking into things from a different pair of glasses, it's like there's certain things like the concept of hell. I don't really know if I can bring myself to love and worship a God who has an eternal hell for like anyone, except for like lawyers, but still, you know, I mean, no, but
Yeah.
and all seriousness, it's like it just seems like such a reprehensible thing for like what's supposed to be this divine being who's like perfect in love would send a person to hell simply because they didn't believe in him. It's like, I mean, even if God proves himself to be real, I would have a huge issue. You know, I would think that I would have to peacefully protest.
As any sane person should do. So good for you.
Yeah.
Super proud of you.
Yeah. Marcus, you remind me of myself, just 5 or 6 years ago, because I felt like I was in the same boat. I feel like at the end of the day, you know, we can talk about the logical arguments. We can talk about the history of the church. We can talk about theology. We can talk about practice. We can talk about what it even means to be a Christian, what it even means to believe. But at the end of the day, fear was a huge, huge driving force for me staying. And when I came to terms with that, and when I said it out loud, it started to not have as much power over me anymore. I really think fear, and fear in a complicated number of ways. Fear in hell being one of them, but also the fear of social reprisal, the fear of what other people would think of me, right? The fear of disappointing my parents. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The truth is, it sucks being an atheist most of the time, because you're usually the odd man out, at least, in Texas, right? Where we are, right, Marcus? We're usually the odd man out.
Yeah.
We're usually, not the most popular opinion around, and that it's just not a good feeling to have. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Jesus, please do not be offended, but my wife is a Seventh-day Adventist. So.
Oh, forgiven. It's all right.
Yeah.
But seriously though, I really want to know what you guys think though. Like, what do you think happened? I mean, okay, here's the stat. She has about 8 to 10 of these journal books. She says there's like thousands of pages of them collectively. So I'm assuming there may be 365 pages per book, right? And she just happens to pull this one book out and happens to put to this one thing that, it was kind of spooky. You know what
else, Marcus? Really, you know what else? I bet, Marcus, if she pulled another journal with another piece of writing, she would find some way to interpret it in your own life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the exact, but Marcus, this is the exact same logic as tarot cards. Yeah. This is a tarot card reading in a Bible form. Yeah. It really is. I promise you it is. I know it feels spooky. It feels weird. How could it relate to this and that? But that's really the logic behind it at the end of the day. When you are figuring out the meaning behind that stuff and you want to make sense of how could this happen to this, we know that's not how the real world works. And I can even demonstrate it right now, Marcus. Ask her to do it again and again and again and again. See what comes up. Probably stuff that's more tenuous. Why? Mm-hmm. Why would it be more tenuous? If it worked for her that one time, why wouldn't it work for her again? Because it was a coincidence. That's the best explanation. It's the absolute best explanation possible. If it wasn't a coincidence, then she could willingly do it again at any moment's notice. I mean, why wouldn't they? What would be stopping her, right? I mean, that's really how you have to think about it. It's kind of it's a deprogramming thing, because as Christians, we are taught to be superstitious about this kind of stuff, and you kind of have to get your brain away from that, But anyway, go ahead, Marcus.
It was a very specific journal entry that was about me. That was from 2016.
Marcus, I'm sure your mother wrote about you a lot, though, don't you think? I mean. You think that there's other writings about you in there? I'm sure there are.
Yeah. There. I don't think that I'm going to go digging through her journal collection, but I mean, yeah. I don't know.
It spooked you. It spooked you, and that's okay. I've had experiences. You know, I've told this story before. When I first said I was an atheist, the week that I was like, you know, I said that out loud, that I was an atheist. I had not one, not two, three different dreams where I was about to die, and I had a choice between accepting the will of God or going to hell. And that's really spooky. You start getting dreams, affects your psychology. That messed me up. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I've made a terrible mistake. Not really, because I'm already afraid of everything that's going to happen to me when I come out of the closet with this. And I'm just externalizing that fear through my dreams. It's the same thing would have happened to me if I was struggling with something at my workplace and I started seeing that thing in my dreams. Like, you know, our human psychology is prone to fear, and fear is what drives us sometimes. And I think like this is coming from a place of fear of like, well, what if she's right though? What's the best thing for this? Like it's really more of a coincidence than you might think it is. I imagine your mother wrote about you a lot. I imagine she knows you pretty well, if she writes about you at least. Yeah. And she probably, you know, maybe you were going through something at the time that just happened to meet up with now, but you know, anything else would make less sense. Right. But maybe just, what do you think, Marcus?
You know, I'm thinking about probability, because I looked up online and it says that the odds of winning the odds of winning the lottery are like 1 in 303.6 million. Whereas, how do you calculate if you have 10 books or journals and each of them has 365 pages in it? So we're talking maybe 3650, right?
Marcus,
okay.
Hold on a second.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop you right there. Don't get hung up in the numbers, because you can always make numbers work for you, no matter what. That's why there's so many crazy beliefs out there. But don't get hung up in the numbers. If you think that that's any indication that maybe what your mom is saying is actually true, you have to consider that there are many other things that I could probably point to, other predictions or other things that, how do you explain this? How do you explain this? That have absolutely nothing to do with religion whatsoever, you know, or divinity or anything like that. I mean, just, how many times has the show The Simpsons correctly predicted the future and correctly predicted what would happen, you know, in the future? I mean, there's like countless times that's happened, you know. Is that to say The Simpsons, Homer Simpson is God or something like that? No, of course not. It's just,
I hope not, but
it's a coincidence. It's just a coincidence.
Let me give you a metaphor, okay? Imagine, Marcus, you have a field and you have a bow and arrow, and you shoot that arrow into the field and it lands somewhere in that field. Now, what is the probability that that arrow would land exactly in the spot by which you placed it, as opposed to any other spot in the field? Right? When you think about it like that, it could be astronomical. But if you weren't trying, then there's no probability to it. It's just random. Right? It's just extrapolation. You're painting the target under the arrow, and you're saying, "Wow, look how could this be so accurate? How could it have hit this target?" But the target wasn't there. The target was going to be whatever she could use to try to talk to you, to try to justify her faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's how these things go. What do you think?
It definitely sounds like the more likely, a more, you know, like in line with what I've observed in reality, because people claim that they've seen angels, demons. They claim that they've seen you, Jesus, but it's like they don't even have you. And I'm like, no, but like I've never seen any actual supernatural things. I have had subjective impressions I have had, like feelings, but feelings could be psychosomatic. I have felt very strongly that something was of God at one point in the past, but how do I really know that that was God? And then other people around me are confirming and saying, "Oh, yeah, that was God because of such and such." And I don't know. Everything just kind of fell apart at one point.
Yeah,
and just no longer made sense. And I started reevaluating things through a different set of eyes. It's like I don't really know if there is a God or not. I don't know if it's the God of the Bible or not. But I do have some issues with some certain things like slavery and the concept of eternal hell, which my wife does not believe in that part. So she should be a little more forgiving to Jesus. But no. But it's just been a real struggle for me, like trying to figure things out and kind of getting spooked sometimes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you went through what you went through, because you don't deserve that, and other people in your position don't deserve that. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's gaslighting. It's just long-term gaslighting. I mean, that's really what it is. I think I experienced that growing up in the Christian church. I think I had some very similar experiences to you, Marcus. I had people say that they've experienced God in some way or another, that they've had prayers answered. And I would pray and I would think, oh, maybe this happened because I prayed and I did this. And then suddenly I make those connections too. And it becomes this one big web of, it's a game of social confirmation, wanting to make sure you're fitting in with your other Christians, making sure you're just as spiritual as them at the same time, really wondering, is this whole thing even real? Is this all built on a house of cards? I've come to the conclusion now, Marcus, that it was a house of cards, that this is something that humans have been doing for a very long time. And as you've rightfully pointed out, is not exclusive to Christianity. Is it a coincidence that people have heard the voice of Allah in the Middle East more than anywhere else? Is it a coincidence that, is it a coincidence that people have, I've had a Hindu tell me that they've heard the voice of Ganesh before. I've never heard the voice of Ganesh.
Does it sound like this?
I don't know.
Is it I don't know, elephant, but right?
Yeah. It's like, hey, I think he heard that because he was Hindu. I don't think he, what I'm saying? But you see what I'm saying here, Marcus? There's cultural impressions here. And we have the benefit of living in the 21st century where we can kind of put the pieces together, right? Like we can see the internet. We can see that there's multiple populations on Earth. People in history, they didn't have that luxury. They were just, they mostly grew up and died in the places where they were born. And so their religion was all they knew about the world. And so that's how this thing spread. I know it's unbelievable that so many people could be wrong, but that's just the way it is. It's incredible, but that's where we are. And I don't know, I hope you can find peace through that process, because deconstruction is hard, because it feels like you've been gaslighted, because you were, right? You were told things that weren't true for your whole life. And we all just kind of have to, this show and everybody that is part of this show and people that help out, we're all dealing with that. Everybody that grew up formerly religious, we've all had to deal with that, so you're not alone there.
I mean, it's just very confusing to me and hard, because for so long I believed so strongly with them, and I was one of them, and we went through a lot of trials together. We went through a lot of things. And they've always been very nice and very good to me. We've always been like a family, even though we're not related by blood. And it really does kind of suck. I don't have anything against them. I don't have any negative views, and it's nothing like that. But I just have to know, I just have to be sure. I have to find out what's going on, because it's kind of, I don't know.
What's going on in terms of, what do you mean? Like, why people still believe and you don't?
Maybe that, and also do they have a point on some things, or still? I mean, what we discussed,
yeah. Well, Marcus, I think about it like this: Have the people in your life done the same amount of research you have into this thing? Because I know the people in my life sure haven't. I know they haven't read the books I've read or the scholarship the people I've talked to at this point now, Marcus. I've had the opportunity to talk to some pretty amazing people just on this show, let alone, the people who actually work in academia, who work in history, who are seeing this stuff firsthand and who are also confirming on this same thing, people are going to have a difference of opinion because they're working with the information they got. And if they don't know what you know, Marcus, then they're not going to come to those same conclusions. Now, are there apologists who've studied the Bible and who know a lot more than the average Christian and still believe? Sure. I think they believe for bad reasons. And I think you can see that. And obviously psychology plays a lot into it, Marcus. And also being honest with yourself is hard. Holy shit, is it hard? It's hard to break away from the crowd and to be different. And that plays a part of it too. I mean, there's so much going into this. But I know you want that feeling of absolute certainty. And, I would say you become more certain in time, honestly. I'm more certain that Christianity isn't true now than ever before, but maybe that's a bias on my part. I've been in this camp for a little bit, but it's part of the gaslighting effect, unfortunately, that feeling of not feeling certain about it, of not knowing who to trust and stuff. I really think that's sort of the psychological fallout that comes with deconstruction that you also kind of have to work with.
Well,
Say again?
We were taught for many years that
we
were taught for many years that human wisdom and human logic is inferior to hearing the Holy Spirit, the voice of God. And so I basically get accused for overanalyzing. And
what logic did they use to come to that conclusion? Human logic, of course. I mean, we're all stuck with human logic. That's one of the funniest things about Christianity. They tell you not to trust your senses, but what did Jesus do? He did miracles. What's the point of doing miracles if you're not trying to convince somebody that you're the Son of God? I mean, why would you even try? That doesn't make any sense. Obviously, he was trying to do something there. But the point is, today they try to pretend like, oh, we don't have to see miracles to believe. But literally, that's why he did the things. So people could believe in him. So, it's okay that you don't believe because you haven't seen these miracles, because you shouldn't. You shouldn't believe on stuff you don't, that you can't verify.
Well, they get upset at me for demanding evidence. But the disciple Thomas, who actually saw Jesus and all the miracles, doubts, and Jesus gives him a free visit.
That's right. He had no problems. He was like, okay, here you go.
What can I say? I'm really good at forgiving.
Yeah. And what's the line after that people use, though? Right? Greater are those who believe and yet haven't seen. And that's how they get you. They want you to say, well, look, you haven't seen it. So your faith is even better because you haven't even touched it and you still believe. That's not a good thing. It's never been a good thing. That's how scammers get you. But Christianity, one of the worst things Christianity has done has taken credulity as a virtue, like gullibility, I think that's really affected people, especially, oh my God, America. Hello. America's full of people that fall into traps like that, probably because we grew up all Christian. And then we were taught that we wanted to be more, credulous for that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then the flat earthers are like, well, you can't really be Christian unless you believe the earth is flat. Well, that probably is true, to be honest. But
well,
because
yeah. Anyway, Marcus, we got to get some other callers here. Unfortunately, we got to let this one go. But if I could say anything to you here at the end here, I would say you're not alone. Every single expression of thought that you've just put onto this show, I have had. I know Jesus has had, and I know that other people listening have had. Like it's a totally normal response to what is, again, a lifelong gaslighting event that happens to people when they grow up in a particular religious foundation, whether some more than others, depending how big religion was in your life. But religion was a big part of my life, and it sounds like it was in yours too, and that affects you. And so that's totally okay. What you're going through is totally normal. You can use your logic to figure things out. That's all you got. That's all you got. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let Christians say, oh, you can't figure stuff out because you're using human logic. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't. They don't even know their own book. I mean, honestly, like if they really took the time to do what you have, maybe they'd come to a different conclusion. I mean, at least that's how I got here. Maybe other people, they came different ways. But anyway, I've been talking a lot on this one, Jesus. What do you think of that call?
I completely agree, man. You know what messes everything up? Middlemen.
Yeah.
See, I never intended there to be a middleman, but boy.
Yeah. Why? I mean, if you wrote your own damn book, though, I mean, maybe we would have got a better, clearer picture, right? I mean, we got 4 different stories going on here.
If
at least.
only.
Yeah.
Right. I know. I just I'm illiterate. What can I say? I don't know how to read or write.
Yeah.
Never learned. Never really saw the value in it.
So wait, when we sent that email the other day, you just didn't?
Oh, I had somebody dictate that to me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm still illiterate. I can't do any of that.
I understand. Well, that's unfortunate. Illiteracy affects over 10% of adults, 15 to 10% of adults worldwide, and I'm sorry to see that you're part of that population. I hope maybe you can get some tutoring.
I'm in this world, but not of this world.
Sure. Yeah. Do they? I guess they don't use English in heaven, right? So I don't know. What is it, like Klingon?
It's
Hebrew?
Adamic tongue.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I could work with that. Anyway, we're gonna get to another caller here. I'm not sure if we can get to everybody tonight, guys. So sorry. I'm not sorry that we took a little longer with Marcus, because Marcus sounded like he needed to talk. So I feel very comfortable whenever we go a little longer with calls like that, because some people, they just need to get that out there, and I'm glad. I hope Marcus got something out of that.